Today I'm going to be talking about how to configure the rover and use it with Mission Planner. First and foremost, you need to power on the rover and open up Mission Planner. Once you've done these two things, you need to plug the wireless radio module into Mission Planner. From within Mission Planner in the top right hand corner, you'll select the only available COM port, which will show up when the radio module is plugged in, and you will select the speed of 57,600. Then you click connect. After clicking connect, about a minute later, the rover's parameters will all have been downloaded to the software Mission Planner, and you'll be able to start using the tool. When the rover is connected successfully, you should notice that the artificial horizon is operational. You'll potentially see a GPS fix from the rover if it's managed to obtain one, otherwise it'll just pick a random point. And you'll notice some variables flickering around. In order to use the rover from this page, you've got the ability to go to the Actions tab and control all the functionality of the rover in terms of its modes and its arming, disarming, etc. So this is the ability to control the rover without the use of the radio. Here you can control the different flight modes or operational modes, because obviously it doesn't fly, and also you can control whether to arm it or disarm it, and several other things, but those are the important ones. And you can see those via set mode, return to launch, arm, disarm, etc. All the functionality you need for that is there. Now, one key thing to point out is that nothing will work unless you enable the hardware arm button on the top of the rover by pressing and holding that. If you don't press and hold that, the rover simply won't move. With the rover in guided mode, you have the ability to define waypoints for it to go to from this view. So you can right click, select fly to here, and when you do that, the rover will simply go in a straight line to the point that you have highlighted. So that's everything you can do on this main page. Other things is you can zoom in or out using this slider here. Now, the next step is waypoints. In order to use waypoints with the rover, you have to switch over to the flight plan page. And so the flight plan page gives the ability to add waypoints by clicking. So if you left click, a new waypoint will be generated. And with the new waypoint being generated, down in the bottom you also have the ability to modify and define what the waypoint does, what the range, proximity, the what would you call it? The point at which the rover accepts that it has hit the waypoint, the acceptable distance. And you can delete waypoints, you can change their priorities, you can define how long it should wait at a waypoint, things like this. And then once you've created your waypoint, you can save your waypoint to file so that you can use it later, where you can then load the waypoint from a file. But also, in order to use it on the rover, you have to write waypoints. And so when you select write waypoints, it will save those waypoints to the rover, and at the point at which you switch to auto mode from the mode switch or from the main flight path page, the rover will immediately start following its waypoints by heading to the first point. Now, you can also read waypoints off of the rover to find out what its last mission was, and that's about it as far as this page is concerned. You can right click somewhere and define that it do certain things, such as return to launch or loiter at a specific point, experiment, and basically do whatever you want it to do. Now, that's the basic things you can do from this page. Other pages that are relevant include the config and tuning. So on the config and tuning page, you'll have on the left a full parameter list. If you select this, it will load up all the parameters the rover has available to modify. This is absolutely everything that can be changed on the rover. The key parameters that are useful for you include rangefinder, so RNG, FND, and that would be rangefinder 1 through 3. And those allow you to modify the parameters of the rangefinders fitted to the rover. The other important parameter is PRX type. So if I do PRX and just wait for it to filter, there's a parameter here called PRX type. Right now it's disabled, but if you set PRX type to 4, which is the rangefinders, that will enable the obstacle avoidance on the rover. As I say, it's not completely tuned, so it may not work as expected, but if you wish to experiment, change PRX type to 4 and click Write. Now, before you do modify any waypoint parameters or any parameters for the rover in general, I highly recommend you save to file. Save the existing parameters in their existing configuration somewhere, and then do your modifications, and then save those modifications under a different name. That way you can return to previous configurations if something goes wrong. And I really do recommend you do this because it was a lot of trouble to get certain things to work properly. So other pages that matter include initial setup. From initial setup, you have the ability, when connected to the rover, to modify things such as the flight modes, parameters, etc. Now, all of these things are available through the full parameters list, but this is just a more UI friendly version for doing these things. Now, one thing I want to show you is with the Tyrannus radio is what switches are relevant to you. So on the Tyrannus, when this image gets bigger, you have primary switches used for switching modes, and those are the two switches on the top right front of the radio. Now, I don't know why it's not wanting to load, but from this small image on the screen, where I'm pointing at the mouse pointer, you have a potentiometer, then you have a long 3-position switch, and you have a short 3-position switch. The long 3-position switch is your modes. So the top position is manual, middle position is guided, and the bottom position is automatic mode. With the switch to the right of it, that's your return to launch switch, and that switch overrides all other mode switches. So if you flip that down, the rover will immediately start returning to the point at which it got to its initial GPS base, unless of course you have changed its home position from the flight planner page. So to use the rover, on the back left hand is the arm disarm switch. You have to flip that forwards to arm the rover, in addition to the hardware arm button, which is on the top of the rover, which needs to be press and hold in order to make the rover move. And then with the physical arm on the rover and the software arm on the radio, you can then switch modes between manual, guided and automatic, or return to launch. And with the right stick you have full control over the rover manually. So that covers the basic principles of how to control the rover and how to modify some parameters in the rover. If you have any other questions, please do let me know, but for now I will leave you with, here you can set your home point, and that's about the only other useful piece of information that I can think about at this time. Thank you for watching.